What if the worst military disaster in modern American history was actually the greatest gift the United States ever received? Because one night in an Iranian desert, 8 Americans died, helicopters burned, and a rescue mission collapsed in spectacular fashion. Iran celebrated. America was humiliated. But that humiliation created something no country had ever seen before. A military machine so effective, so precise, and so relentlessly adaptive, that 40-5 years later, its shadow stretches across the entire world. And it all began with one catastrophic night in the desert. If you enjoy stories where failure becomes overwhelming power, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this video with someone who loves military history. Because this story changes the way you look at defeat. November 4th, 1979. The Middle East changed overnight. The Shah of Iran, America's closest partner in the region for nearly 3 decades, was overthrown. Ayatollah Khomeini's revolution seized power, and one of Washington's most reliable allies suddenly became one of its most hostile adversaries. Then came the decision that ignited everything. The Shah was dying from cancer. He asked the United States for medical treatment. President Jimmy Carter said yes. 13 days later, thousands of Iranian students stormed the American embassy in Tehran. 60-6 Americans were taken hostage. What most people don't know, the occupation wasn't supposed to last. The students later admitted they expected a symbolic protest lasting only 40-8 hours. Hand over the Shah. Make a political statement. Then go home. But Carter refused. That 40-8-hour demonstration became a 440-day national nightmare. Every night, millions of Americans watched the hostage count on television. The crisis consumed the country. After months of failed diplomacy, Carter looked at his military advisors and said 5 words that would change history. All right, let's go get them. There was just one problem. The United States military of 1980 wasn't actually one military. It was 4 separate institutions pretending to be one. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. Different radios, different procedures, different chains of command, different definitions of success and failure. They competed against each other more than they cooperated. Even basic communications were a problem. Many units literally could not talk to one another. And at the center of this dysfunction sat a brand-new organization called Delta Force. It had existed for only 5 months. No combat missions, no operational experience, and its first assignment would become the most complex hostage rescue operation in modern history. The plan was called Operation Eagle Claw. 8 helicopters, 6 transport aircraft, a covert desert landing zone, a secret hide site, CIA assets inside Tehran, simultaneous raids, gunship support, airfield seizure, extraction under darkness. It was extraordinarily ambitious, maybe impossibly ambitious, and almost immediately, everything started going wrong. A helicopter suffered mechanical failure. Another flew into a massive sandstorm. Pilots became separated. Visibility disappeared. Instruments became unreliable. One aircraft turned back entirely. Then another helicopter developed a hydraulic failure. 5 helicopters remained. The mission required 6. The operation was over, but somehow it exploded. That still wasn't the worst part. Desert once it beside a public road. A civilian bus drove directly into the operation. Then came a fuel truck. It refused to stop. An anti-Midas tank rocket hit it. The explosion lit up the desert. Now there were civilian witnesses. A giant fireball visible for miles. And an Iranian military response could arrive at any moment. Washington ordered an immediate evacuation. Then disaster struck. A helicopter collided with a fuel-laden C-130 transport. Both aircraft instantly became an enormous fireball. 5 Air Force personnel died. 3 Marines died. Ammunition exploded in every direction. The survivors fled. They left behind helicopters, documents, intelligence materials, and the names of undercover CIA assets. The operation had become a complete catastrophe. America's enemies watched in disbelief. The world's most powerful military couldn't rescue 50 to hostages. And for once, they were absolutely right. Most nations would have hidden this failure. The United States did the opposite. It investigated itself. Retired Admiral James Holloway led an independent inquiry. His conclusion was devastating. Iran didn't defeat America. America defeated itself. The report identified 20-3 major failures. And then something remarkable happened. Washington rebuilt everything. JSOC was created. Delta Force no longer operated alone. Special operations units trained together, planned together, fought together. Then came SCRAL Team 6. Then the Night Stalkers. Then the Goldwater-Nichols Act, which legally forced the services to operate jointly. Then came SOCOM, a unified command built specifically to ensure another Desert One never happened again. The entire architecture of modern American special operations was born from this disaster. Desert One became America's military version of Pearl Harbor, a catastrophic failure that triggered revolutionary change. And that's where the story becomes extraordinary, because the machine created after Desert One went to work. Scenario 1. Afghanistan. A few hundred special forces operators, many literally riding horses, worked with local allies, called in airstrikes, and helped destroy Taliban control in just weeks. Scenario 2. Iraq JSOC hunted Saddam Hussein across an entire country, eventually pulling him from a hidden underground bunker. Scenario 3. Abbottabad, Pakistan. As CAL Team 6 and Night Stalker pilots crossed sovereign airspace undetected, killed Osama bin Laden, and disappeared before anyone understood what had happened. Each mission looked different. Different countries, different enemies, different objectives, but they all shared the same DNA. Desert One. Every lesson, every mistake, every failure, integrated into a system that never stopped adapting. And now comes the irony. The regime that celebrated America's humiliation in the Urian Desert accidentally helped create the very force that later became America's most feared instrument of power. The sandstorm, the burning helicopters, the 8 Americans who never came home. Those moments didn't break the United States. They transformed it. 40-5 years later, the machine built from those ashes possesses more combat experience, better intelligence integration, more capable pilots, and more specialized operators than any special operations force in history. So maybe Desert One isn't really a story about failure. Maybe it's a story about what happens when a superpower is humiliated and decides it will never allow that humiliation to happen again. Because every unit, every reform, every operation, and every legendary mission that followed can be traced back to one lonely salt flat in the Iranian desert. Aaron thought that night proved America was weak. History suggests something very different. It may have been the night America's deadliest military machine was born. And here's the question I want to leave you with. Did Iran win at Desert One? Or did it knowingly create an opponent far more dangerous than the one it defeated that night? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, subscribe, because some of history's biggest victories begin as disasters.